And good evening and welcome to American Communications KSOM and KS95 and school election forum with a visit with the candidates willing to participate from Ward 3, our two gentlemen, Mr. Mike McDermott and Mr. Pat McCurdy, and Ward 4, Linda Hartkopf and Shawn Sarsfield, the challenger, and 5 candidates for the Atlantic School Board, 5 candidates running for 3 seats on the school board. We'll have a visit with those 5 candidates coming up a little bit later on here this evening. Now, the audio and video will also be archived on our website, westerniowatoday.com, so you can go back and listen and watch the forum at your convenience. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here this evening, and we're going to get started with Mr. McDermott, the challenger here in Ward number 3, and talk about your decision to run.
Well, thank you, Tom. Thank you, KSON, KS95, for providing this experience for our city. I was, approached a couple times. I've been thinking about it in the past, and this just felt like the right time to try and run for city council. I've had 27 years experience teaching and coaching in the district, worked with a diverse set of individuals, both students, parents, and administrators, and I've tried to solve problems at the school level and now trying to continue that at the city level.
Very good. Mr. McCurdy, of course, you're the incumbent.
Yes.
Talk about your decision to seek re-election again here.
Well, the reason I decided to seek re-election, there always is a lot of unfinished business in the city, regardless, it goes on and on. But we got a lot of projects going right now, and I'm very involved in most of them, and I'd like to finish them out, and hopefully, and it's mostly all good. I think there's a lot of good happening in this town. People are always down about all this and that. Well, there's a lot of good happening in Atlantic, Iowa. But I decided to run again when my health's good and everything, and I'm semi-retired, I have the time. So just to help move Atlantic forward is the reason I decided to run.
The question for both of you, and we'll stay with Mr. McCurdy here. I mean, do you feel the city does a good job of providing services for growing families, or is there more the city itself could do? And I maybe should have talked about this beforehand. Many of these questions, in fact, most of them did come from the public. That is a question from the public as well.
Sure. Oh, that's a very good question. I feel we do about all we can. We're limited in what we can do to help. Of course, the main thing is to have a friendly, clean, safe environment for people to live in. And nobody comes with your taxes. I know that's a big boogaboo with everybody. Mm-hmm. But, you want a place where people want to live, not where they have to live.
Very good. Mr. McDermott, I'll repeat that. I mean, do you feel the city does a good job of providing services for growing families, or is there more the city could do?
Well, I think it's adequate right now, but there's always room for continued growth, and that's something that I've always strived for, not only at the workplace, but now at the city level. I think there's still opportunities out there to think outside the box and maybe try and find other avenues for both revenue and growth.
Should the city insert itself into the child care problems? Another question from the public.
Yes.
Facing our community. And if so, what could the city do in addition to what has already been done to help solve the problem? Mr. McDermott, we'll start with you on that.
Well, I think definitely they need to be involved to some degree. That's just a natural portion. You bring families into work, and they need places for childcare. I think we just read in the paper this past week about some concerns at the YMCA Wickman Center. Those are places where I think the city can insert themselves and potentially help out that problem. Do we have all the answers? No, but I think you go to other cities, other towns. I know they've been working on the same issues. And so, what works for other cities doesn't always work for ours, but you sure like to get ideas out there and, again, continue to try to strive for better childcare.
Mr. McCurdy.
Yes. Normally, I'm one to try to keep government out of everything unless we have to be. This is a very serious problem. Right now, we do provide financial support for Dan Wickman Child Care Center. The city does. But this is a huge problem because if we don't have child care, of course, my background is economic development and tried to recruit people into town, working people. And if one of them, and it'd be a real shame, like you have a couple come to town, they both got a good education, and they can't find childcare, and one of them has to stay home. I think that's a disservice. So I'm to the point to where we got to do more than what we're doing now. Like Mike said, what that is, I don't know, but we definitely have to try to help because it's almost a crisis situation.
So,
Yeah,
just
go
to
ahead.
add to that, and I would say, one of the good starting points is talking to the people currently involved in that, both, as you mentioned, the YMCA and Wickman Center, but also those private households. How can we help them grow and develop maybe their child care system right now?
And one of the problem is I know some of these people and they're retiring. It seemed like after COVID, a lot of them got out of the business, and we do have, CATCO does have a program to help start up child care. It's not a lot, but it's a little boost for their training and whatnot. And we have a few, but not near what we need. But yeah, we need to do more. The answer I don't have, but I would sure work on it.
Very good. Gentlemen, we'll start with Mr. McCurdy here. Another question from the public. Do you feel that Atlantic has a services problem? Do you think Atlantic has all the businesses needed to provide affordable dining and entertainment along with trades when needed, such as electricians and plumbers? Kind of a long question here, but is this holding Atlantic back? And should the city be involved in attracting and possible holding some finance, some new services for its residents that can make them more affordable?
That's quite the question.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. No, it's definitely not helping us. But how much should the city be involved? That's a good question. We want to do all we can. We want to attract people. And like the restaurant business, I've had several in the industry tell me the problem is there's different ones that want to come to Atlantic and open a restaurant. Location is one thing, labor. They can't find help, so they're very hesitant to come. And how the city can really get involved, there's a limit to what the city can do. We want to do all we can. We want to attract people. We want to keep people. And maybe working more with Iowa Western on these trades and whatnot. But as far as the city is taking over, I don't think that's the answer.
Not the answer. And Mr. McDermott, do you feel that Atlantic has a services problem? I mean, do you think Atlantic has all the businesses that needed to provide affordable dining and entertainment?
Well, I think there's always room for growth in those areas. Again, kind of referring back to, I think you go to the businesses that are already here, those people that are already established here in Atlantic, ask them, how things are going, what can they do to maybe grow that business, whether that be a restaurant business or manufacturing or, any of our businesses. Hey, what can we do to help you grow? As Mr. McCurdy said, the city is limited in some regards, but I think there's other opportunities out there to help those businesses strive and move forward, and then work on also attracting new business.
Very good. Well, gentlemen, we'll move on. And one of the issues that did spark some conversation amongst community members was the dissolution of the Park and Rec Board. I want to bring that up because I think that was a pretty important decision that you were part of, Mr. McCurdy,
Right.
and I want to hear, and the public wants to hear from Mr. McDermott. We'll start with you, Mr. McDermott. And do you have an opinion on this, in favor or not in favor of that issue?
Well, I'm certainly concerned of how that's going to work moving forward. I know what has worked in the past. I'm interested to see how that is, what's going to happen with that as far as we move forward with it. I walk my dog a lot around town, and I see a lot of our parks are being used. So in that regard, it's a concern of how that's going to work moving forward. I think there's an advisory council that's being formed. I'd like to see how that would work. Also, I'm concerned with that. I think your advisory council is your constituents. They can call anytime or email or however they want to get in touch with you. We had people that were interested in running, so that also is a concern.
Mr. McCurdy?
Yes. I've been on the council about 5 years now, and this is the most hot button issue we've had. I thought long and hard before I would vote to dissolve this board. And I wanted to make sure when we did this, there's several issues involved with why we did this. I'm not going to get into that. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I wanted to make sure we had something in place to replace it. And this is this advisory commission, we're calling it. And I can't say who it is, but we didn't interview, we went over 5 people's resumes last Friday it was, Personnel and Finance, which I'm chair of, and we got 5 wonderful candidates. And they will be announced at City Council next Wednesday afternoon. And they all are passionate about the parks. and they all kind of got their own great what would help the park. So I think it's going to be a win-win in the end. It might take a little time to get there, but I think it's the best decision. Like I said, I would have never voted to dissolve this park board if we thought that was just the end of it. Yeah.
Will they all be taxpayers?
Yes.
Good.
And when we set this up, we had there's 5 on it, and the terms are staggered 1 and 2 years, and 2 of them can be outside of city limits, 3 have to be inside of city limits. And then we're going to have and this wasn't my idea, I think it was Grace's as mayor, and we're going to have a student representative, non-voting part of it. And the 5 we have are 3 are in Atlantic and 2 are outside of Atlantic, and they're close. And they're all very involved in our parks.
So the 2 outside of Atlantic won't be paying city taxes?
No, they won't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. So let's talk a little bit more about the understanding of the role of a city council member and in promoting economic development, Mr. McCurdy.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. That's what I'm heavily involved in. I'm vice president of CADCO. I've been in CADCO for years. My whole career I've been involved in economic development, and the city works closely with CADCO for economic development, and we support CADCO for that reason, to help grow the community. And I'm passionate about economic development. You can ask anybody that's talked to me. That's my forte. But we work closely with CADCO on different projects. We got a business looking at downtown right now that the city is involved with, and CADCO is maybe going to finance it. There's a lot of good things the city can do in partnership with the chamber and CADCO.
Good. Mr. McDermott?
I am no expert in business, but I am somewhat of an expert in visiting with people and seeing what their needs are. If I'm elected, I'm certainly going to try to get as educated as fast as possible. I know there's some areas that we can use to help maybe attract and develop businesses. TIF funding is one of them. But I'm just interested in learning more about that aspect. Being a public educator, you don't really learn most of those things.
Sure. We'll move on to describe your experience. Mr. McDermott, we'll start with you. Working with different stakeholders such as businesses, community organizations, and residents.
Well, as I mentioned, I've been involved in public education for 27 years, so you see all sorts of people and a diverse population coming into the classroom, and those students and parents are involved in many different aspects. And so not only do you talk about their child, but you also talk about their needs and learn from them. So that's something that I think I can use potentially positively. And recently I've been working on the Iowa State Education Association Executive Board. We represent 300 districts, over 50,000 people to grow and develop teachers, but it's not just teachers, it's also our paraeducators, the lunch people, our bus drivers, janitors, working with administrators, and people, all sorts of people involved in education, and that's also expanded into businesses. We just heard from the local aircraft people and their business recently at a school board meeting, so that has started to branch out, and I'm looking forward to doing more of that.
Yes, I think almost 5 years I've been on the council, what I've enjoyed and got the most pleasure out of is interacting with the residents. People, I get a call not a lot, about once a month about a problem. Maybe it's for a permit, or their alley needs something done to it, or whatnot, the neighbor's dog, or, different things. And I try my best. I never promise that I'll solve the problems, but at least I'll address them and help them the best I can. And a lot of times we can get it resolved. Usually it's a lack of communication or whatnot. And I get a lot of pleasure out of that, helping people, And of course, we go back to CADCO in the city. We interact with business all the time, the city and CADCO. And I think I get good working rapport about everybody in town. Most people know me and know how I feel about how we need economic development and grow the community.
Okay. What do you think are the most important qualities of an effective leader? We'll start with Mr. McCurdy.
Well, leadership, for one thing. Not be afraid, like this park deal to move ahead. If you're just going to be a politician and try to please everybody, nothing ever happens. I relate back to when I was president of the C&M school board. Boy, when I got elected, I'm going to just do whatever everybody says to do. Well, you're going this way and that way, and you don't get anything accomplished. You have to stay focused and look at the big picture. This looks good now, but will look good in 5 years, and be a leader.
Mr. McDermott.
Yeah, leadership's important. As far as the city council, I want to be transparent and be transparent and physically responsible with the people's money. That's also leadership in that regard, but also acting with integrity and having high character values.
Well, gentlemen, I think we get to the final part here. Your final comments, if you would, please. Really appreciate your answers and for taking the time with us here. Ward 3, incumbent Mr. Pat McCurdy and challenger Mike McDermott. And go ahead, Mr. McDermott, your final comments.
Well, I just think I might be the best candidate for, as we just mentioned, my reputation with trying to help people. Mr. McCurdy said the same, just a little bit different aspect at the school level. But I think some of those similarities transform over to the city level as well. Big on integrity and character, and I think that's what the voters can expect out of me.
Mr. McCurdy, your final comments.
Well, I had the experience of almost 5 years on city council. I think that's a plus. My business background, extensive business background, ag and commercial, is a plus. And where I'm self-employed, I do have the time to commit to this position. It's not just a couple meetings a month for an hour. There's several committee meetings and different things you're expected to perform as a city councilman. I have the time to do it, so I feel I'm the best choice.
Good, gentlemen. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Mr. Mike McDermott, Mr. Pat McCurdy. The Ward 3 candidates for our city and school elections. November 7th is the date, but voting started today, October the 18th, and we'll continue with the polls that'll open on November 7th. We'll continue our visit with our candidates. Ward number 4 with Shawn Sarsfield, the challenger, and Linda Hartkopf, the incumbent, and then we'll have our 5 school board candidates running for 3 seats. We'll have that coming up here in just a little bit here at 95.7 FM and our live video stream, westerniowatoday.com. And welcome back to our School and City Candidates Forum here on KS 95.7 FM on our video stream here on westerniowatoday.com. Thanks for tuning in and listening. We had a chance to talk to Pat McCurdy, the incumbent in Ward 3, and challenger Mike McDermott. And now we move on to Ward number 4. And joining us is challenger Shawn Sarsfield. Linda Hartkopf, the incumbent, could not make it. We're going to try to get her in here sometime and give her time, but we certainly wanted to get with you, Shawn, and thank you for taking the time with us. Let's talk about you first of all and introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Shawn Sarsfield. I'm from Atlantic, Iowa, born and raised. Moved away for a short time and then came back to live in Atlantic, and just absolutely love the community. Volunteer firefighter for a little over 15 years, EMT as well, and love that. Try to help wherever I can, and for community stuff. It's just such a great thing, and I just love my hometown. So,
What are you doing today then?
well, I'm taking some time from work. I'm actually in the office this week, so pretty fortunate to be close to home anyway, to be able to do this. So, but otherwise, married, kids, grandkids, dogs. It's just the normal stuff.
Normal stuff.
Yeah.
Family man and all that. Running for city council, though, and talk about your decision.
So last year I was very interested in it. There was a seat that had come open, I believe when Kathy Summers stepped out, and I was pretty interested in it, but didn't have time to get in and talk to anyone about it. And then this year, I had several people reach out to me, and they're like, Shawn, you just got to do this. And still interested from last year, and it really kind of pushed me over the edge I think it's an important role to be able to help.
What interests you? I mean, how about your interest in running a year ago, and now you do it this year? What was it that interests you? A certain topic or certain?
It's not any certain specific topic, really. It's just the opportunity to help the city, help our community.
Talk about your particular skills or experiences you've had that would help you be a good city council member.
I own and operate my own business here in Atlantic. I've been doing training now for over 11 years. I have a place here in Atlantic. So I've built my business. It's flourishing, doing well. So I think I can take some of my knowledge and experience and help with some ideas.
Do you feel the city does a good job of providing services for growing families, or is there more the city itself could do?
Well, I think they're doing a good job, but there's always, no matter what, room for improvement. So if I can get some fresh ideas or fresh thoughts to them and help propel the city to make it more appealing for families to come into Atlantic and decide to live their lives here.
What would be maybe one thing that'd be more appealing for families? Think of?
Well, there's several things. Number one, job opportunities is going to be a big one. And then things for our young or our youth. Back in the day when I was young, there's a ton of things to do. And it's just changed because obviously the times have changed. So if we can help, I know if I were a family man moving into a town, number one, what is going to be there for me to do? And number two is what are we going to be able to do with our family that we don't have to take necessarily out of town to keep them here?
We're going to maybe turn the page here a little bit and talk about childcare. Shawn, as I mentioned earlier to Mr. McCurdy and Mr. McDermott, these questions are for the public.
Right.
We're asking you. And so should the city insert itself into the childcare problems facing our community? And if so, what could the city do in addition to what is already being done to help solve the problem of childcare?
That one's, I'm not super up to date on exactly. I know that childcare is hard to come by in Atlantic, but I think any assistance to make the programs a little bit better. Again, it's something I'm not super up to date on right at this moment, but definitely willing to learn about.
Do you feel the city has an obligation to financially support larger portions of projects such as housing, economic development, recreation, and beautification? I think one of the questions was Do you think the city needs to be maybe inserting more than 10% into the splash pad project type of thing? That was brought up for the public, and so I guess that's my question to you.
Again, it's having an overall knowledge of what the city is doing currently before I make any assumptions or anything like that. I think it would be fair to have some good background on that, because I don't have the full background of everything that's going on. But obviously, as part of the city, we want it to be nice, and we want things to grow that way. So I'm going to be for, definitely making the community better in some form or fashion. So finding that balance, I think, is going to be very, very important.
Do you feel Atlantic has a services problem? Do you think Atlantic has all the businesses needed to provide affordable dining and entertainment along with trades when needed, such as electricians and plumbers, that type of thing?
I think we could do better. I think if we had a little bit more to offer, I believe that everything would propel, right? So if we have more people coming into the community, we have more opportunity for restaurants, we have more opportunity for businesses to be in town and be supported. It's not one single problem, I don't feel. I think it's just the collection of a bunch of things. If we can bring them together, I think we could do a great thing in the city.
What do you think are some of the challenges facing the city today?
Well,
and how to deal with them?
Just, population, the people that we have in the town, what do we currently have for jobs in the town to be able to support our community? As far as the problems go, that's kind of maybe opinion focused too. So again, I'm not super in depth on any particular issue necessarily, other than there's a bunch of things that need to be addressed that hopefully that's something that I can hope to help with.
You're running to serve, basically.
Absolutely, yeah.
One of the issues that sparked conversation amongst community members was this dissolving of the Park and Rec Board. Your thoughts?
That, to be honest with you, I don't have an opinion as of yet on that. So I don't know a lot about it. I've been kind of out of town for the last week or so, and I'm just getting up to date on this. So I couldn't give you an honest opinion or answer on that one.
Good, Shawn. Explain your understanding of the role of a city council member in promoting economic development.
We're there to help, give our ideas, and hopefully help with the bringing in of new business, promoting business. I guess that's kind of what my thought is on that.
And as far as experience working with the different stakeholders, such as businesses, community organizations, and residents, do you have experience with that?
I don't have a ton of experience with that, but there are a lot of programs out there that are put on for council members that I am going to attend if and when I get into this position. I'm going to take advantage of every opportunity that I can get a hold of to help.
Shawn, finally, what do you think are the most important qualities of an effective leader?
Integrity, honesty, the willingness and want to help people and their communities. I love this community. I came back to it after I moved away for several years, and it's important to me. Again, serving on the fire department for many years, there was just no bigger reward, and that's the biggest thing to me is my community, making sure that it does well.
Good. That's all the questions, but we'll give you a chance for some final comments here.
I honestly want to help the community. I want to, if I can help in any way to our city members, to help propel them, help give new ideas, innovations. That's why I'm doing this. I want things to be better for everybody, and it's important to me. So.
Very good. Shawn Sarsfield, running for 4th Ward City Council, joining us here on our forum. We'll be back to talk to our 5 school board candidates running for 3 seats on the Atlantic School Board. That's coming up next. And welcome back to our school and city candidates forum here on 95.7 FM and live video streamed on westerniowatoday.com. We get to our 5 candidates running for a school board, 3 seats available, and we're going to introduce our candidates, Jodi Stowater-Goodrich, to the far left, Laura McLean, Kristen Holaday, Jordan Dailey, and Gini Jordan joining us here. And thank you very much for coming here this evening. And we want to hear about yourselves. We're going to cover some of the issues, and we're going to start off with introductions. And Jodi, tell us about yourself.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Well, like Tom said, my name is Jodi Goodrich. My husband, Brent, and I moved to Atlantic a little over 12 years ago. We have 4 kids. In almost all the schools. We're starting to get out of elementary school now. Professionally, I'm a physician assistant, but I also help coach different things for my kids when need be, and have volunteered a lot in the school system. So you'll probably see us out and about at lots of different activities.
Thank you, Jodi. Laura McLean.
Thank you. My name's Laura McLean. My husband, I'm originally from Illinois. My husband, Don, and I moved here 15 years ago and raised 3 kids. All of them graduated from the Atlantic school system. I have one that's still at University of Iowa, and the other 2 are out on their own. I've served on the school board for 4 years, just with 1 term. I'm currently serving as president of the board. I've also served in appointed position on the legislative resolutions committee for the state, and I'm currently serving as the Southwest Area 7 representative on the ISB state board.
Thanks, Laura. Kristen Holaday.
Hi, I'm Kristen Holaday. I have a 4-year-old, so this is my first year doing preschool. I am a single parent, and I am born and raised in Atlantic, a 2006 high school graduate from here. I have my BA is from an Iowa college, and I moved back home after having my son because I wanted to raise him in the same community that raised me.
Good, Kristen. How about Jordan Dailey?
My name is. I actually I graduated in 2009. My husband and I bought the house I grew up in, which is really cool. I have 2 kids. They're 4 and 1, so they're not quite in the school system yet. But I do a lot of coaching. I just finished up coaching soccer, and I have some nieces and nephews who are in the school system. So I'm always trying to get out and see all their activities and look forward to kind of helping nurture the relationship with children in school. So,
Thanks, Jordan.
thank you.
Jenny Jordan.
I'm Jenny Jordan. I have 3 children that have gone through Atlantic Public Schools. I grew up in Northeast Iowa in a small town, Manchester, similar to Atlantic, yet slightly smaller. I have 2 daughters who are teachers. My son works in a science lab. I have 9 grandchildren, none of them in the public schools here, but they are all in Iowa. My husband and I own a farm northeast of Atlantic, and my husband was a civil engineering technician, so he is also retired with me. I would say that I am a substitute in the schools, so I get into 3 of the 5 buildings at least once a week. So.
Jenny, thank you very much.
Okay.
Again, thank you all for coming, and we'll get to our questions. We'll start off with Ms. McLean, and let's talk about what are the particular experiences in public education or skills that have prepared you to serve as a school board member.
So experiences in public education, specifically for Atlantic, having had my kids go through the school here, I think that I had opportunity to volunteer, to just as a lot of us have had opportunities to volunteer and to build relationships with some of the teachers and other staff and be able to begin to sort of, and obviously just all of us, as you're raising kids, you talk to other parents and you have a chance to see the different experiences that different kids have, different learning challenges and needs. And so through that, I think sort of was piquing my interest. Education has always been a big focus for me in just various ways. I most recently was teaching classes at Iowa Western Community College, as a teacher there for high set classes. So, and I think that my time on the board has caused me to learn and really expand even more about the potentials for public education and what a foundation stone it is for kids and for families, and really kind of a building block for the rest of their lives. Skills. I think I kind of wandered. I guess skills for me, like I tend to very much be a big picture person. So the board is a good place for me to be serving. I appreciate, in the trenches volunteering and still try to do that. But I really like being able to sort of understand the greater context for education today, some of the things that are going on, advocacy at the State House, which I've engaged in every year, and having that sort of big picture to think about what direction our district is going in as a whole, which is why my campaign slogan is Stronger Schools, Stronger Atlantic, because I do think there's a tight connection between the strength of the school system and the strength of the community itself. So I really see those things fitting together, and I want to work toward that.
Thanks, Laura. Let's go to Kristen Holaday, and I'll repeat that if you don't mind. What are the particular experiences in public education or skills have you prepared to serve as a board member?
Yeah. So I'm a social worker by trade. And so we work very closely with the schools on our kiddos, particularly in child welfare. So working with families and kids and really getting to know the therapists at the school, and secretaries have such a wealth of knowledge too. Those are kind of my go-to people when I talk, and principals, and learning how really our underprivileged students are treated and how we can serve not only all of our students, not just certain little pods of students. is really kind of something that I'm passionate about, and making sure that everybody's getting the education that they deserve. Also, in a previous, I ran a psychiatric medical institution for children, and one of the positions that I supervised in that was our school liaison. So we worked very closely with our school district in making sure that our students get an education and they don't fall behind, and that they are able to graduate on time with their peers when they go home. So those are just some skills, and of course volunteering and working with the principals of the school to find families that really need some extra help and some assistance. Really, if you know my family, that's really kind of a core of what we are, is helping people who need help and making sure that everyone's kind of loved and taken care of.
Thank you very much. Jordan Dailey.
I don't really have a lot of experience in the school field per se, but I've coached several different teams and I help with 4-H clubs. So just learning that not everyone learns the same way. So just being able to adapt and kind of look at the bigger picture on how we can make sure that everyone is set up for the best success after school. That doesn't necessarily mean, per se, someone like really focusing on sports. But just other activities, so we're getting children, invested and interested in coming to school every day is a very important thing. Kind of the goal is to, set everyone up for success after school. So,
thank you very much, Jordan Dailey. Ginny Jordan.
All right. Well, obviously I have a very close connection to the district. As a school teacher or a 5th grade teacher for 34 years in Atlantic, I obviously have dealt with a lot of children, a lot of different families in the community. I belong to a lot of different committees. I've worked on strategic planning, the school improvement team I was on for years. I developed curriculum. I was a mentor to a lot of teachers. I had probably 12 to 15 student teachers over the years, several of whom are now employed by the district, which is fun to substitute and go into their classrooms. I was a Schuler building rep when we would negotiate contracts. So I feel like I have an insight into the finances of the school district that other candidates might not have. I believe that the Atlantic School District can be the best that it can be if we all work together. And I think the teacher perspective might be very important in some of the decisions that the school board would make. And I think it would be fun just to be on the other side of the fence. I've been in the trenches. Now I'm gonna, I guess, jump into another trench, but so that would be what I'd have to offer.
Very good. Jodi.
Yes, so like others have said, school is not my background, healthcare is, but so is being a mom. So lots of volunteering, lots of activities with 4 kids throughout the school systems. I think being in healthcare, I can offer maybe a different perspective, with communication being one of my larger skills, and working together as a team, helping direct, which way we need to go, defining rules and things like that. As a mom, personally, I was wanting to be on school board because, kind of like Ginny said, I want to know what's going on in the school district, and be able to help make those decisions for not only my kids, but for all the kids in the community. Because like it's been said, they are the future of this town, and I think it's one of the best things we can do to give our time back to the school system.
Thank you very much, Jodi. Next question, is there a particular issue that motivates you to serve on the Board of Education? And we'll start with Kristen Holaday.
I want to say there's one issue in particular. Obviously, with my background, mental health is huge, and with making sure that our kids are getting served, and the best way to serve our kids overall is financially. We talked about not being in the trenches, but looking at things from 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 elevation, and the best way to really evoke broader change is by raising up in that elevation, and school board is definitely at that higher elevation, and so making sure that financially the school is really utilizing the budget that it's given and the monies that is coming in, we'll really be able to utilize to make sure that we're not only taking care of our students, but also taking care of our educators and our support staff that make sure our kids are taken care of from the day to day and really engaging with teachers and educators and the support staff.
Good. Kristen, thank you. Jordan, Dailey.
So I would say one of the problems is maybe kind of broadening our spectrum of programs that we look at. So I know a lot of students feel like maybe sports are kind of the main thing that the school kind of focuses on, but kind of, foreshadowing a light onto other activities that other students are super interested in. So we get them motivated to come to school, and so they're wanting to wake up every day and be productive and come to school every day. Because some people maybe just feel like they don't make a difference and have no desire to come to school. So just motivating them with maybe like planting a garden or something that they have an interest in is something that would make them be motivated to come to school every day. So.
Good. Jenny?
Would you repeat that question?
I sure will. Is there a particular issue that motivates you to serve on the Board of Education?
Okay. I would say that there was no particular issue that motivated me. I was encouraged to run after I retired. I think a lot of people wanted that teacher perspective, because I don't think, well, maybe we've had one teacher in our history that I can think of that would have been on the school board. And I just have an interest, obviously, in the Atlantic School District being there for all students, that every student that goes through feels safe and welcome, and that we, like Jordan said, that we offer new things, like the new aviation program and, the exciting opportunities that can be there for kids, and kids who, might not want to go to college, might want to go to a trade school, that those opportunities show up for them in our Atlantic schools. I think that we need to worry about how we spend our money, because of course funding is short usually every year. We could certainly use a lot more money, and it would be nice if we didn't have to look for grants to fund some of the things that we have. I go around the schools and I see all the exciting, creative things that are happening, and a lot of it comes out of teachers' pockets, and it would just be nice if we could have more funding for classroom equipment. I would also say our paras, I know there's a shortage of paras, and they are critical to some classrooms. So I would like to see, encourage paras to not only apply, but to maybe get paid more. So I think that's basically where I'm coming from.
Thanks, Jenny. Jodi?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say there's one issue in particular either for me. I just want to make sure that Atlantic school system is a safe place, not only for my kids, but for the teachers as well, that all students can feel safe there during the day and welcome. I think the kids' passes to the student activities, getting all the kids in for free, was fantastic. I just like seeing that kids that weren't able to go to those activities are now getting to do that. So that was wonderful. And then, I just want the Atlantic school system to be successful and competitive, that when people hear Atlantic, they're like, yeah, that's a great school, not only for education, but for athletics as well, and that we really prepare the children of this community for their future.
Thank you very much. Laura?
When I first ran for the board, my motivating reason was probably like to elevate academics. I had kids who were high achieving, and I really wanted to see that kind of like elevating academics for across the board. Got elected to the board. We immediately had a pandemic, so we had to pay a lot of attention to things like medical issues and health and safety. Then we had a catastrophic building fire, so we had to think about our space needs. We've had our preschool really burgeoning. We've still been dealing with post-pandemic learning loss for students. And so I think that no matter what issue you think you're running on, you're going to end up dealing with other stuff. It is really hard to sort of keep a focus on a particular thing. I think that we have invested a lot. Part of what I learned once I got on the board was how much need there was for support for mental, social, emotional health, and really across the board. And I think you'd mentioned it being a safe place also for teachers. I mean that's for staff as well as for students, and so we've really put a lot of effort into that. And I think that now what motivates me is the idea of us creating a learning community where all of our students feel supported and are having the opportunity to succeed in whichever pathway. I really like the idea as we've sort of pushed forward on different pathways. There's, a college pathway, and then there's going directly into a trade, or I think Gini alluded to it. We're trying to really strengthen the pathways for students who maybe aren't necessarily going to go on to higher education, and also for our students who are maybe high school is really just going to be it for them, and making that a great experience and strengthening what they learn.
Thanks, Laura. Kristen, same question.
started.
You already did it. Okay. Let's go to this. We might have already had this. You might have talked about this, but I'll go back with it. If elected, what will be your priorities? Jordan, I think you're first.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kristen.
So my priority would just be, creating a safe and learning environment for everyone. People learn differently, so it's kind of a struggle sometimes for people. So just having that mindset and just focusing that other students, may have different ways to learn things, or things like that. Just focusing on, just developing those skills to help you in the future. So.
Particular priorities, Jenny.
I think my priorities would be that all students would feel safe and welcome at school. I know that we have a spectrum of socioeconomic levels in Atlantic, and I would want everybody to come to school, feel welcome, and know that they have a place at school. I think that the school should be, it'd be a place where you go and you say, wow, this is the place I want to be today, and go through that. I think that the board should always put students first, and whatever they decide. I realized, I went and talked to the superintendent last week, and there's a lot to learn before you come to a school board. And I think that would be one of my priorities, is also just to get into the schools. I mean, I'm in the schools, but there is so much more to it than just teaching in a classroom. I would think that we should go in and support current board policy, regardless of whether we agreed with it or not, and complement that by adding our expertise and whatever skills that we have. I think that there's lots to learn, and about how and why our policies came to be. I think there's a lot of background that would be there, so that would be a priority for me.
Okay. Jodi Goodrich.
Yeah, kind of exactly what Ginny was saying. My first priority would be just diving in and learning, because I've never been on school board before, and I think it's a big undertaking already. After just announcing that I'm running, people are already coming up to me discussing different issues, things that they maybe like what's going on, or things that they're maybe concerned about. So really getting out there, not only learning about the school board itself, but listening to the community and hearing their wants and needs.
Okay. Laura McLean.
Great. This is priorities. Is that
Yes,
what-
yes.
I think that, I've characterized it to a few people as that I felt like my first term on the board, the last 4 years, was a lot of troubleshooting and a lot of sort of crisis management, as we kind of went from one thing to another. And I'm really looking forward to and I may be a total idealist about this, to having 4 calm years where we are going to be doing, I mean, whoever is seated on the board, we're going to be doing a superintendent search because our current superintendent is an interim. So that will be happening. And we also, if you've been following recent board discussions, we've been talking about beginning to think about undertaking a comprehensive review of our facilities and think about what are some changes that we might need to make in the future. I don't think that would necessarily be accomplished in the next 4 years, but actually a 4-year term, you can get quite a bit done when I think about, you know, the things that went on from 2019 till now. You can move a district in a direction. So I'm really hopeful. I would really like to see us, that vision. I think that you set out that vision of us being the kind of a district that's like an attractor to this community, and that people really, and we actually do have that reputation in certain areas. Like I've heard, we've had people come through and say, yeah, you know, I don't know if you guys know, but statewide, Atlantic is one of the districts that, you know, we pay attention to and that is known for having some good stuff going on and, you know, in different areas. And I would really love to see us just elevating that profile and that success for the sake of our own students and for our own community.
Very good. Thanks, Laura. Kristen.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just going to repeat. But just learning definitely is a big thing. Diving in, really kind of get your hands around all the policy and practices. But just also something that I tend to live by is not thinking you have to do something one way just because that's how it's always been done. So, you know, the changing and how are we moving forward, and having different minds around a table and just being very open-minded to different opinions and different ways of doing things is, I think, just a huge and massive priority of boards in general, and being able to come up with the best solutions for issues or ways to move forward.
Kristen, thank you very much. You talked about facilities, Laura, and that is another question from the public. And we'll start with Jenny. As a board member, will you place any emphasis or concern on the current state of our school building, specifically Washington Elementary was mentioned?
Okay. And I know that, I don't know if it's the current kindergarten or if it's an incoming kindergarten, that there will be 25 students in a class. And as a 5th grade teacher, 25 was a lot. And especially if you have 25 little kindergartners. And I think that one of the things that we need to be concerned about is obviously hiring another teacher, which would require another classroom. And then that possibility of every year, do you add another teacher? We've been through it once where we had a huge class that went through that we kept having to take a teacher away here, but add one here, and it just went up through the building, and that was a real issue. Nobody likes to teach in a closet. At one point, I was a resource teacher, and I taught in a closet. I mean, I didn't have a big group, but there would be 3 of us, and we were just in a little supply room, and you don't want that to happen. You know, you want your kids to be able to spread out. So I'm glad to hear that we're going to do a system analysis of, you know, what we need. And I guarantee when you go into Washington, it's crowded.
Jenny, thank you. And Jodi, same question.
Do you mind repeating?
Not at all. As a school board member, will you place any emphasis or concern on the current state of our school buildings, specifically Washington Elementary was what was listed?
Okay. Yeah, I was just actually up at Washington. My kids wanted to go play on the new playground, which was very fun. But I was just kind of walking around while they were playing. I think maybe there's some safety concerns that Washington could address, and it's obviously an old building, maybe not the most efficient building any longer, and how it's set up is maybe not the best how educators work in these days. But again, you have to be fiscally responsible to your community, so there's a lot of different things that need looked at. There's lots of different things going on too with the, you know, Schuler and the middle school, and small locker rooms and maybe those need updated. I think there's a lot of different things where a whole look at everything in all the buildings really needs to be investigated and make sure that some of those things do get renovated and updated.
Thank you. Laura?
So I had already mentioned that we were just beginning to sort of talk about a facilities assessment because, you know, I think part of us being wise, being fiscally responsible and being wise about our use of tax dollars is for us to really consider how we're spending it when we are making upgrades or making changes and trying to do that in the best way that we can. And of course, building costs have risen over, you know, what they have. And every time you talk about any sort of large scale project like that, everyone gets sticker shock. I think all of us on the board, even just talking about that playground, it is one playground for one building. And a lot of us are old enough to remember when we were playing on playground where everything was just metal bars that were welded together and on the ground was just dirt or rocks or whatever they happen to have. And we're really glad our kids can be safer nowadays and can be really engaged in more creative ways to exercise on playgrounds, but all of that costs a lot of money. And so we're aware of the space problems at Washington. You know, if you go in there, you do. I like to say it's full. Washington is full right now. It's an amazing problem to have because those are our youngest kids, and those kids are hopefully going to rise up, most of them, throughout, you know, all the way through all of our buildings. And we're really glad that we are an attractor district, that we have a lot of kids that are open enrolling in from other districts and coming into this community, partly because of the school, but then, yeah, you get these trade-offs, you know, you attract more kids, you're really happy about that, but then that has these cascading issues, and sort of managing all of that is what the superintendent does. I mean, really, that's what a superintendent gets paid for, but under the board's oversight. And the board is responsible for looking down the road and saying, you know, okay, if we start to do a facilities assessment in 2024, realistically, we could be having a bond in maybe 2026, or, you know, like everything is so like long-term and down the road. And I really value being able to have those conversations at the board table and also getting feedback that we can from the broader public as people are thoughtful about not just the needs that we feel today, but what are our needs going to be down the road.
Yeah. Kristen?
I mean, I think it's definitely something that the district should always be looking at as our facilities, because if we want to continue to march forward and keep up with the times, you have to make sure that our students are getting what they need. And if kids need space, they do. And unfortunately, there are logistics that just aren't quite functioning right now. But it has to be continued to be looked at. And I'm really happy, again, I'll just reiterate that we're looking at those facilities, because I look at the district now compared to even when I was there, however many years ago that was. And class sizes are significantly smaller than when I was going through school. And to see those numbers coming back up, that's just going to allow more money into the school district and allow more things for kids to be involved in. That's going to be more programming, more programs like the aviation program. But again, we got to look at the facilities and how are we going to manage that and make sure that they have the space to really be creative.
Good. Jordan Dailey.
So the Washington playground is super awesome. I've been there a couple times, and I really appreciate that that program or the process finally was kind of finalized. I know it took a long time and is a lot of money that the district paid into. But Washington is a very small school, you know, from housing kindergarten or pre-kindergarten up to third grade. It's pretty crammed in there. So just kind of, I remember one time they had an external classroom that they had to utilize because they had so many people. So just being able to look at different opportunities so we can provide that extra space so that children have a big enough space to learn in, because no one wants to learn in a crammed closet. So just having that extra space helps encourage extra learning.
All right, Jordan, thank you. We'll start with Jodi as Stowater-Goodrich. As a school board member, how do you plan to support our teachers and ensure that they are receiving the necessary support and personnel needed to help every student be successful?
I think that starts with just listening to the teachers and hearing what their needs are, and being an effective communicator with them. At this point in time, as just a mom out in the community, I don't know what all those needs are. So that would be one of the first things that I want to do is get to know all of the teachers better and hear their wants and needs.
One of the first things that I learned being on the board is that the single most important factor in a child's success in school is the teacher. And having teachers who are trained and committed and really love their students and are equipped with what they need is going to make all the difference. And I think every single person, if you think back, can remember the names of teachers who made an impact on you. And I think that's part of what is the tremendous joy of that profession. Along with it come a lot of frustrations and a lot of exhaustion. And I'm preaching to the choir for Gini over here. So I really have appreciated that, to think as a school board member, not just about sort of, I'm going to back up. I've heard about some other school boards that end up, they kind of are like, you know what, we're paying too much attention to the teachers and not enough to our students. We really just have to, everything has to be about the kids, has to be about the kids. And it's like, on the one hand, yes, that is what our ultimate goal is. However, the way to educate those kids is to support our teachers and for them to be effective and equipped for what they do. So I really think that that's something that we've been trying to do over the last few years, especially obviously through a pandemic. And, there was a lot of extra emphasis on the difficulties of teaching, and in particular teaching through a pandemic, and needing to, to upskill very quickly in terms of digital resources and all that. So through all of that, we have tried to really think about the experience that our teachers are having. We rely on our principals and administrators to kind of help us connect to that. But I also really appreciate when teachers, they do reach out to the board directly. And it's really great when they do, when they send us emails. And I love hearing their dedication and their passion. And in particular, when they are thinking about the whole school and thinking about their students, the education all the way through, not just when they leave their classrooms. It's really great to engage teachers as part of that discussion.
Well, thank you. Kristen, Holaday, again, how do you plan to support our teachers and ensure that they are receiving the necessary supports and personnel?
So I've talked to a few educators and paras about, what do you expect from your school board members? What would you like to see, just to try to gain that understanding? Because I'm not an educator. I'm a social worker. I'm not an educator. But I heard the theme in general was just engagement, of feeling not just supported, but that the school board actively does engage with their educators and is there and physically able to say, I'm here for you. How can I assist? Not just, we're here for you, but actually be there and be present. And I know that's completely unrealistic to do that all the time. We have jobs, we have other things we have to do, realistically. But to be able to spend a little bit of time, and even from my perspective with my job now, even being able to explain, like, this is why I have to do things, because sometimes schools don't understand why we have certain policies or certain codes or laws we have to follow. But when I take 5 minutes and explain why I have to do the things that I have to do, the communication lines really open up, and there's less fear there. There's less judgment on why we have to do the things that we have to do.
All right. Thank you very much, Kristen. Jordan Dailey.
So I'm definitely a hands-on kind of person. I'm not a huge talker on the phone, so I do better when talking to people in person. So, just making the rounds to each of the schools, it doesn't have to be every day, it doesn't have to be every week, but, just being able to step in and say, hey, I'm here, what things can we improve on, ideas that you may have. So just some people are more apt to tell you in person versus sending an email. They're super busy teaching all day long. So just being able to have that lines of communication open to gauge their questions or concerns they may have.
Thank you, Jordan. Jenny, Jordan.
All right. I do think it's important that a school board member knows what's happening in each school. I know that there were former school board members who would actually call the school and say, I'm going to be in the building for an hour, which teachers would want me to come in. As a school board member, I would never just pop into a classroom unannounced, but this person would set up an appointment with you and you could say, yeah, come on in, you're welcome here. And I think that's an important thing. I also think that we need to support our teachers more than just putting a candy bar in their mailbox. Not that we don't appreciate that, but to say thank you and to engage with them and make sure that we're listening to them. I think it's important too to support our classrooms with extra mental health things, which I know we're putting into place in a lot of the schools, because classrooms can be difficult places, and give a teacher time to plan so you can diversify all your lessons. I know a lot of teachers get just overwhelmed by how much there is to think about and do in a day. So I would like to just have that conversation with teachers and say, what can we do that would really improve your lives? So
I don't have any more questions. I guess we can go to closing comments, or if there's a point you'd like to bring out, go right ahead. We can start with Jodi. Go ahead and closing comments.
Oh, goodness. Well, we've covered a lot today, haven't we? Yeah, I just think I would be a good fit for the school board, kind of be that connection between the parents of the community and the classroom, and could really help their concerns be brought in. And I ultimately think Atlantic could be a fantastic school district. I think we have everything in place to really make it really wonderful, and I'd like to be a part of that.
That's Jodi Stowater-Goodrich, and Laura McLean, final comments.
Yeah.
Well, first, thank you for convening this. I was glad that we had an opportunity. I actually was glad to be able to meet you guys. And I just appreciate all of you for running. It's a big deal. I started as the school board president. And once I found out that Nick Hunt and Jenny Williams weren't going to run again, I started going, what if nobody runs? What do we do? Like, it's this very anxiety-provoking thing. And other people were like, it's fine. People will run. Don't worry about it. It is a huge commitment. And I assume that all of you have counted the cost and realized that it's a lot of time. I really have been so glad that all of you are talking about the learning you need to do, because really that whole first year, it's an intense kind of ramping up. But it's so rewarding. I really love the opportunities when I can be in the schools and in the classrooms, and seeing kids make those connections and just seeing the process of learning happen I found it to be one of my favorite things about being a mom, and also even about being a school board member, is seeing kids grow and learn and develop and mature. And it's a privilege to be able to be part of that. I guess I just want to say I'm also very excited for the future, and looking forward to what the next 4 years will bring.
Thank you. And Kristen, Holaday.
Yeah, again, thank you. And it was great meeting all of you guys here today and hearing your points. And I think I've already learned a ton just sitting here for this 45 minutes with you guys. And I really just want to put our kids' education really on the front burner of this community. The Atlantic Trojans are really something that this town is proud of, and I want to continue and be a part of that. And I want to ensure that as this community keeps marching into the future, that our children are given every opportunity that we can give them. It's our job, it's our duty as adults in this community to make sure that our kids are taken care of, and education is such a huge piece of that. And I have really dedicated my entire adult life in advocating for children and advocating for professionals, and I would love the opportunity to continue to do that on the school board.
Thank you, Kristen. Holaday. Jordan Dailey, final comments.
So if elected, I'll put in the work to ensure schools have the resources they need to provide education and the skills that will set up every student for success after graduating. So if that be including more hands-on activities, where children are getting their hands dirty and helping build their important social skills such as interpersonal communication, anger control, and stress management. So those are all kind of the building blocks to help set you up for a successful future. So,
Jordan Dailey, thank you very much. Jenny Jordan, final comments.
I appreciate the encouragement that I've had since I decided to run. People have been very excited. Our community shows tremendous support for our schools, and I just think it would be exciting to be a part of that next step in the next 4 years of improving these schools, doing what's best for students, and making sure that not only are our buildings safe and secure, but our teachers feel safe and secure, and of course, students want to come to school every day. So.
Thank you, Jenny Jordan. And I want to thank Jodi, Stowater-Goodrich, Laura McLean, Kristen, Holaday, Jordan Dailey, Jenny Jordan for joining us here on our forum. 5 candidates running for 3 spots on the Atlantic School Board. Of course, voting started today. And, of course, will continue till the election November the 7th. Again, we'll have the video will be archived. You can watch it on westerniowatoday.com. We'll also have the audio archived as well. You can go back and listen to that at your convenience. So again, thank you, ladies, very much for coming and taking the time with us here in our forum. Thank you for joining us here on Meredith Communications Candidate Forum for the City and School Election, November 7th. Thank you very much. Very good.